Good morning. It's the 16th day of March 2021, and you're welcome to The Conversation, where we bring you informative, educative, and entertaining stories from across Africa on The Conversation on your digital first Pan-African news network, TOS Television. I am Merciful Ajinomo.
And I am Adesu LC. Good morning and welcome to the show.
All right, before we go on to development across Africa, here is the quote for the day. All right, that's an African proverb that says, those who pay attention, those who accomplish great things, pay attention to little wins. So it's saying we start small and then we get big. Before we go on the show, we'll go on a break, and when we come back, we can bring you development across Africa. Just stay.
Welcome back. We move straight into development across Africa, starting from, Congo, where gunmen raided and killed villagers in reprisal attack in eastern Congo. Armed attackers, believed to be members of the Allied Democratic Forces, have killed at least a dozen villagers in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The ADF has been a devastating group for decades, killing hundreds of Eastern Congolese people. After a military onslaught in 2019, the group hasn't stopped waging reprisal attacks on innocent locals in villages. Men dangling knives and other weapons attacked Bolongo, a village in eastern Congo, on Sunday night. The dead bodies may also be more than reported, as they were killed recklessly and laid on the ground. On Wednesday, the United States listed the ADF as a foreign terrorist organization after links with ISIS were suggested. The UN has, however, been unable to find links so far. According to official figures of the UN, at least 850 were killed by the ADF in eastern Congo in 2020. Locals have complained bitterly about the absence of the army, as villagers in Bolongo were axed. That is the most inhumane thing I've seen, I think, in the last 1 week, or heard about in the last 1 week. I don't know.
It's a very sad story.
It's very sad, and it's as though every day when you wake up, you hear one issue,
one raid, abduction, kidnapping, or another.
Incessant killings of innocent people, and you keep wondering why. What is the root cause? Like, what is the message you're trying to pass? Why? I just hope we get past all of this,
Yeah, we do hope so. And moving on to Rwanda, a combined team from the Rwanda National Police Anti-Narcotics Unit, the District Police Unit, and the residents of Rubavu have arrested 4 suspected members of a drug trafficking cartel with 100 kilograms and 5,000 pellets of cannabis. Claude Hambunisgisha and Yondeju Simbumwana alias Fields, both aged 31, who were commercial motorcycle operators in Rubavu, got arrested on Sunday, March 14, in Gisain sector, Amahoro cell, with 54,000 pellets of cannabis masked in 32 bundles weighing 100 kilograms. Chief Inspector of Police Bonaventure Twizere Karekeze, the police spokesperson for the Western region, alongside one John Claude Rokundo, a storekeeper at a house located in Amahoro cell, Gisain sector. The house, which was being used as the store for the narcotics, had just delivered the 32 bundles. The house was rented by a drug dealer on the run known as Hanvia Hakizimana. The 4th suspect, Jonas Sambereme, 39, was arrested Saturday, March 13th in Busasamana sector, also in Rubavu, with 5,000 rolls of cannabis.
That's quite a lot of cannabis.
Yeah.
And a whole lot of cannabis.
A whole lot.
A whole lot.
Actually. And it's illegal, yeah, too.
Very illegal. I wonder where they were taking it to. All right, still in commemoration of the Women's Month, since we're still in the month of March. Osaso Igbinedion, that's the Chief Executive Officer here at TOS TV Network, a Pan-African news network focused on propagating news in Africa on business, development, politics, and tourism, has called on women of the press to stand their ground and be a voice. Delivering her keynote address in a Zoom meeting titled Exploring Underrepresentation and Misrepresentation of Women in Nigerian Media, she commended the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for the support they have given to Hive, as she opines that the workflow of Hive has been impactful and, most importantly, measurable. While expressing her delight on the subject matter of the meeting, Osasu, who is well known for the Osasu show, questioned the capacity to which women who make the news are talked about and the perspective stories around women newsmakers are told. She stated that women are underrepresented and misrepresented in media today due to social and cultural views that glorify patriarchy. Making reference to a published story that reveals that over half of Nigerian men and women believe that it is acceptable for a man to beat his wife, the CEO noted that it is therefore not surprising when the media is not challenged about reporting issues on domestic violence and other injustice faced by men. Well, first of all, that's why she's, called the people's journalist. But aside from that, I kind of can relate to, what she's saying, because there's a whole lot that the media isn't saying, especially, when it comes to women, the issue of women, especially in this part of the world where, patriarchy is, apologies to you, where patriarchy is usually at the front burner. There's lots of things that have been excused and seen as normal that even, it's been so excused that even the female are beginning to accept it as what is normal. And I think that's what she's saying, I think, this time where we're advocating for, more women inclusion, it's okay for you to just stand up and be the voice, especially women in media. I mean, if we have a platform, we have a voice. If these other people at the back end, the other women at the back end cannot, do not have the voice, to actually just come out and speak up. Yeah, we can be the voice for them as women in media and just speak up for the women in Africa.
It's a big one for women. It's a call to action, stirring up women to, take charge of the opportunities.
I mean, we have a voice. Let's use it.
Of course, of course. So we move on to COVID-19 update, and this is the FCT Minister Mohammed Bello set to commence COVID-19 vaccination in Abuja. In the efforts of the Nigerian government to contain the COVID-19 pandemic in the Federal Capital Territory, all is now set for the flag of COVID-19 vaccination exercise in Abuja by the FCT Minister Mohammed Bello. The ceremony, which will be held at the Asokoro District Hospital, is expected to have the FCT Minister and other top officials of the administration vaccinated. The administration enjoined residents to endeavor to get vaccinated, assuring that only vaccines approved by the World Health Organization and NAFDAC will be administered. It also noted that it has approved designated hospitals where the free vaccines can be accessed by residents.
So are you going to get vaccinated, Matt?
Yeah, after every, when people have gotten vaccinated, it's going to start from the top officials, before we get to residents. Of course, I'll make time out and, go and get vaccinated. Are you going to get vaccinated?
After you.
After me, yeah. It's not painful, I would say. It's just,
It is.
You have seen people, receive that.
It is.
Was there any feeling or emotion?
Well, no, not the side effects. I mean, it hurts a bit.
Is it the needle?
It hurts, not the needle.
So you're scared of needles?
No, not the needle. The content. I don't know what's in the vaccine,
so it's
but
painful.
it kind of hurts a bit.
Have you received it before?
Let's not scare the viewers. I mean, get vaccinated. You should get vaccinated so that we'll get, have herd immunity. But you should know, I think it's expected that they should know what to look out for. It hurts a bit. And it could hurt for more than a few days, but there's nothing.
Your friends have told you that?
Yes, I have friends who got it back.
I think you should testify yourself, so try for yourself. Let's see.
Okay. After you, I did say after you.
Of
so.
course, that's fine.
All right, talking about COVID-19, we're going to go on a break, and in that time, we're going to be bringing you a COVID-19 update from across Africa.
DOS TV Network mobile app is now available. You can now catch up on our breaking news, stream our programs live, Watch out for the latest update on sports and politics as they unfold. You can also get notifications for our upcoming programs and events. All these on our TOS TV Network mobile app, available on Apple Store and Google Play Store. TOS TV News from Africa by Africans.
Being a journalist means in-depth analysis that unravels hidden truths, that question the status quo and fact-checks government.
These criminal elements hiding under the cloak of surveillance contractors are the APC elements.
Do you have facts to prove that? Being a journalist means waking up every day with a burning desire for peace, equity, and justice for all citizens.
We're being told that the choice you have is to take the lesser of two evils.
It means patriotism via the prism of objectivity and accountability. It means giving my platform to the masses to discuss issues that matter to them.
Some of them, if they bring budget and the budget they look, some of them sleep. They're going to ask how much you are on. I have it.
Thereby shaping government policies and laws. My name is Osasu Igbenegbu, and I am the People's Journalist.
Welcome back. That was COVID-19 update from across Africa. And look, I'm not very impressed with the numbers. I mean, we're supposed to be having reductions. Why are we having, increase in the numbers of active cases and in the number of deaths? It has climbed. It was 3.9. Now we're having over 4. It's supposed to be reducing. That means something is not right. People are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to, take your precautions and getting vaccinated. If your country or your state, if you're in Nigeria, has started rolling out vaccine, please do all of that. Be responsible. Be a responsible African, so all of us can beat COVID-19. All right, having said that, we're going to move into, newspaper headlines for this morning, starting with the Blueprint newspaper. Starting from the very top, 38.04% of pension accounts in Nigeria empty. That's a report. Blames PFAs and PENCOM, says pensioners. So pensioners are blaming the PFAs and PENCOM, for all of that. And then besides the Blueprint newspaper, MTN Nigeria seeks 200 billion naira from capital market. That story is on page 23 of the Blueprint newspaper. Just below it, Nigeria's multiple exchange rate worrisome. That's coming from the World Trade Organization. That story is on page 5. And the writer under that says continuous reliance on fossil fuel time bomb. That story you can find on the Blueprint newspaper. Under that, we have troops kill 41 terrorists, rescue 60 in Borno State. That story is on page 5. And moving over to the very obvious headline there, expert CEOs or CSOs predict rise in number of out-of-school children as bandits hit 5 schools in Northwest and North Central. The first rider says abduct 692 students, teachers in 3 months, 42 still in captivity. Storm Birmingham Primary School, kidnap teachers. 2 female varsity students abducted in Ogun. Child marriage, Almajiri to increase, nation threatened. Gunmen kill hubby on first wedding night in Zamfara, wife watches. Killings, destructions going out of hand, northern elders cry out. Those stories are page 5, 6, and 7 of the Blueprint newspaper. Now, under the picture of the day, accolades to Burna Boy. This one is on the Grammy Awards. Burna Boy, Wizkid, inspiration to youth. That's coming from the APC. That story is on page 13 of the Blueprint newspaper. But before we move over to the next newspaper, I'm quite sad at the very obvious headline there. Yeah. Of course, it's expected that we have, increase in the number of out-of-school children as a result of, the banditry, kidnappings, and abduction that's been going on in the north. But having to see that we're having, killings, more killings, abduction, and then this one that somebody got. It's pathetic. It's very depressing at this point. Like, because you wake up and you know that you're at least going to hear one story of, you know, somebody being kidnapped or somebody, you know, being killed.
And on that issue is child marriage.
And the
I think
child
we've gone
marriage,
out-
yes. We're supposed to have gone past that because, you know, we've been advocating for child not bride and all of this stuff. And we're hearing the child marriages are going to increase in the north. It's pathetic, I must tell you.
It is. And we move over to the National Economy newspaper, and we begin from the very top of the newspaper. Nigeria records 32.9 trillion naira total debt, 33.5% unemployment rate. And then moving on to the very obvious story on the national economy, 19% share in Africa's trade. Nigeria must upgrade infrastructure, add value to products, coming from the DG of the World Trade Organization, Okonjo-Iweala. And over to the bottom page, you know, underneath the picture of the day, NDIC to go tough on failed banks' debtors. That can be found on page 5 of the national economy. And side by side with that is federal government to allocate 0.5% of GDP to research innovation. That can also be found on page 5 of the national economy.
That I'm fascinated by the last headline, you know, allocating, you know, funds to research innovation. That's quite impressive because, I mean,
it's a good one for Nigerian Africans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, moving over to the Daily Trust newspaper, starting from the very top. 23 million people unemployed in Nigeria. That's coming from the NBS. Beside that, federal government to reopen Kano Airport on 5th of April. And then beside that, bandits kill 17, abduct 25 in Katsina. These are, you know, on top of the headlines on top of the Daily Trust newspaper. Now moving over to the very gaping headline there. School abductions endanger education in North. Federal government must act fast. UNICEF, ABU, DONT, PTA are the ones saying that. Situation serious, calamity, and that's coming from TOFA. Some people profiting from insecurity. I think that's coming from, you know, security expert. Declare state of emergency on education. That's coming from, you know, article. And then just under, you know, I think there's a statistics right there. Not quite sure what statistic that is, but I think, okay, there's some major cases of students abduction in schools from April 2014 to March 2021. To just give, you know, numbers of, you know, abductions that were recorded in the country so far from that, you know, time frame. Under that, World Trade Organization concerned about Nigeria's exchange rate. That's coming from the Director General, Okonjo-Iweala. Under that, beware of COVID-19 third wave. PTF tells Nigeria there's going to be a third wave. 68% of Nigerian children deficient in iron. That's coming from, you know, beverage producers Nestle. 2 dead, 160 hospitalized. A strange disease spreads in Kano. That's, you know, the headlines. But I saw, you know, on declare state of emergency on education coming from, you know, Atiku Abubakar, and kind of reminds me of one of the guests that we had here that said, you know, when we're talking about, you know, what can be done to education in North, and he said, oh, we have to, you know, it's a state of emergency that has to be, and then having to see that replicated, I'm like, okay, I think they're starting to get it.
It's probably something strategy.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so we move on to the Daily Times newspaper, and we begin from the very top. Kidnappers seize teachers, pupils, students in Kaduna, Ogun State. And moving on to the very gaping headline on the Daily Times newspaper, Nigeria WTO discuss trade gains as Okonjo-Iweala meets Buhari, others. That story can be found on page 2 of the Daily Times. And underneath the picture of the day, where we see the President Muhammadu Buhari and DG WTO Okonjo-Iweala, governors meet Wednesday over petrol pricing, COVID-19 vaccines, others. And just beside that is Agric loan, CBN playing politics with Agric loan, Wike alleges. That story can be found on page 3 of the Daily Times. And just side by side with that is Kama Law, CAN, that's the Christian Association of Nigeria, sues federal government over CAMA. And CAMA is Companies and Allies Matters Act 2020. That story can be found on page 2 of the Daily Times.
But before we move on, I like how, you know, it's encouraging as saying, you know, across all the dailies, Director General of the DG of the World Trade Organization, you know, trying to see how Nigeria can further manage, you know, resources and, you know, improve productivity. basically the standard of living of Nigeria. I'm interested in seeing, you know, the outcome of the meeting that she has, or she's had with, you know, the president, and then the offshoot of that. The outcome of the meeting is, you know, what was discussed and strategies, and the offshoot of that will be, you know, implementation and everything that's going, you know, they're going. I'm just, you know, fingers crossed for that one. And then moving over to the last dailies we're going to be looking at this one. That's the leadership newspaper, and starting from, you know, the Okonjo-Iweala story. Okonjo-Iweala offers ways to improve Nigeria's trade. PMB appoints Bako Mansur Matazu as NIMET Director General. And CAN drags FG, that's federal government, to court. Beside that, CBN targets startup growth as NIBSS launches NQR. Then moving over to the very, you know, obvious headline there. As search for solutions to insecurity continues, sociocultural groups insist on state police. And then under that, COVID-19, 11 days after flag off, 8,000 vaccinated in 35 states. That is quite impressive. I didn't know that Nigerians, you know, will be that open to, you know, being vaccinated. And now hearing about there probably might be a third wave, that's very scary. I thought we're done, you know, with the second wave, and then, you know, it's like deeping, and we're going to see numbers reduction. Please,
I'm actually very hopeful that this, you know, these vaccinations that have been rolled out and people is getting vaccinated will actually reduce it. I'm still very saddened by the numbers across Africa. I mean, from 3-point-something million to 4 points. That's not good news. But let's see what, you know, happens at the end of the day when, you know, most of the parts of Africa have been vaccinated, you know, people. Then we can now know if this third wave will be necessary, because that's going to be the next topic of discussion.
Yes, because I mean the vaccines, we just started rolling out vaccines on continents. You know, I think South Africa was the first to start rolling out, and then so. I think we should be patient.
I think so.
We should just be patient.
That's what I was saying now. Before the third wave, let's see what happens then.
But then again, I'm going to encourage people to get vaccinated, because to actually get, you know, that dip, to just flatten the curve, we have to have at least 70% of the population of whether the country or the continent get vaccinated. So if we don't have at least 70%, you know, getting vaccinated, we will not be talking about, you know, flattening the curve and deepening the numbers.
Still, you know, side by side, ensuring everyone follows the COVID-19 guidelines and protocols, you know, to staying
That's quite important. Please, we don't want a third wave. As I've always said, we want to beat COVID in 2021. We don't want to have to worry about COVID-19 in 2022. Imagine having to enter 2022 and still worry about COVID-19.
From 2020,
we can't have it. So please get vaccinated when your country or your state start rolling out vaccines. And if you're in the FCT here in Nigeria, vaccines, you know, they start rolling out vaccines, get vaccinated. Don't worry, nothing's going to happen to you.
I think people are still a bit, you know, nonchalant and, you know, skeptical about everything, and say, oh, whatever happens.
Okay, that's the much you can take on the newspaper headlines for this morning. We're going to go on a break, and when we come back, I'll be taking you through what's trending on social media. Welcome back. Now, moving straight into what's trending on social media. You already know that this is my favorite part or my favorite segment of the conversation. I'm sure Merciful knows that too.
I do actually. You're always taking it.
Okay, so guess what's trending on social media? Hashtag Miyetti Allah. Now, it's not the terrorist group per se that is trending. They said they're not terrorists, so I take that back. Not, you know, the group, the Fulani Headsmen, you know, group, bandits that are trending. It's basically, the president or, the national president of the Miyetti Allah, Kwatal Hore, a picture of him or footages of him surfaced on the internet showing he uses police escort and Toyota Sport utility, vehicles. It was not clear where, he was heading at the point, but the photographs show he was moving, within a town as his convoy of about 3 SUVs appeared to be moving, alongside some, tricycles and guarded by police escorts. And trust Nigerians to not be comfortable with that. I mean, there's been, the speculations that the Miyetti Allah are, the front line of Fulani headsmen. I don't want to say terrorists.
There has been so much of a controversy, surrounding
around
terrorism, different groups,
exactly.
and if they are or are not part of terrorist
group. Yes,
but they have come out to say, look, they are not terrorists. They are not bandits. People should not address them as.
Yes.
But now the internet has come up with all these people saying, why is there's so much of security guarding this kind of people.
Yes, not the people, the president, of that association or organization. So I'm just going to read out a few tweets, to that regard. The first one is from I am the chairman, and he says, "See the way the president of Miyetti Allah is enjoying in executive style. This country is finished, man." And then the other one, the president is Oluch Christie. The president of Miyetti Allah, the Association for the Terrorist Fulani Headsmen, are now moving in Nigerian roads in official convoy with Nigerian security as escorts. Nigerians were warned. And then the third one, that's the last tweet I'm going to be taking, says, in Nigeria today, as long as you're a Miyetti Allah, you're a senior citizen of Nigeria. How does that make you feel? I think somebody responded to that one, says, absolutely. Like, yeah, senior citizen, and the person says absolutely, like, there's no doubt about it.
So is it like an encouragement for people, to be recruited into the group or something or association?
I really wouldn't know what that is. But I think the reason why Nigerians are kind of very, was speaking out, about this one is because aside from the controversy that is around, the issue of insecurity has been on the front burner for so long, and then the issue of Fulani headsmen killing and everything across it has even gone beyond the north, and we've seen that in the west, we've seen that in the south, we've seen that in the east, and so it's beginning to say these people, it's not safe, to be around these people. Pardon me, that's my personal opinion anyways. And then we're now seeing the president of this association moving around with police escort. That's a Nigerian police escort, not your personal security guards now. You don't have your personal bodyguards or your personal security, but police escort from the Nigeria police force. And it's like, why is the Nigeria police force guarding the president of this association that we're very skeptical about?
I think this question is what every other Nigerian have on their mind. They have this question.
Exactly.
So we have to just keep our fingers crossed and watch the social media to get the responses.
Yes, I would really like to follow up, but we know nobody's going to give us an update on it. Nobody's going to say, oh, this is why, except he just wants to come out and say, but I know like the president of the Miyetti Allah is kind of very vocal about his positions and his station, and I think he had come out one time to say, look, we're tired of being marginalized. If people were to send us back to just give us a place, let's just go. We go to the north, they don't like us. We come to the south, they don't like us. We go to the west, they said we're not part of them. So if you want to just divide the culture, just divide it, let's know where we belong. And I think he has been very vocal about all of that. So I don't think he will actually care that people are talking about him having security. For him to have actually gone out and then it was recorded, I think he knew it was coming. He knew Nigerians were prepared for everything. So I just hope, they always say we have our priorities, misplaced here in this country.
So there is, and there's always something to talk about every day. Yes. There's a controversy, one or another, something to just say, what are we doing? But then again, people will keep talking about things here.
But is there really a problem, personally? Do you think there's a problem with him having a security escort from the Nigeria police?
I think every group, every kind of association, every person, every personality, if you're going by the books, the law and the regulations and everything, you can, get an escort. You can get. I don't know the provisions for that in the Constitution, but I think I've seen different kind of people, having escort, and I've always wondered, like, why is this person having escort? What is he protecting? You know,
yes, but sorry, go on.
But then again, I think everyone can have a
Yes,
police
good.
escort. But it's just that this is generating so much traffic because of the number of vehicles, SUVs, and the weight of the security
And
guards.
the caliber of the person.
caliber of the
But
person,
another angle to look at it is, being the president of the Mietiala Association, he probably doesn't feel that safe. Do you
Yes,
get? He
because
probably
of
doesn't feel
all,
that
you
safe
know, the
because of
topics
everything.
surrounding
So
terrorism,
he means
different groups and everything.
security at some point. I think that's another way to look at it, because knowing that that's the president of the Mietiala Association, it's going to, you know, aside from his eyes are going to be on him, I don't think he would be safe
That's
just
true.
walking,
Because
you know,
people
along the
still
road.
and will still hold the opinion that
Yes,
that group is
that
a terrorist
group is
group.
a terrorist organization,
Because, you know,
and they might
we
want
had
to
so much
retaliate
talks on
and
that
stuff like that.
True,
Exactly.
true.
So I think that's another reason why he should have, you know,
And it's a valid
security.
reason, don't you
Yes,
think?
I think so. So yeah, we should just look at it from it should
Different
be a balanced
perspectives,
opinion. Yeah,
of course.
exactly. All right, that's too much we can take on the social media, you know, trending, what's trending in the social media segment of the conversation. And you know, it's about that time where we go on a break. When we come back, we're going to be taking you through the big story.
North to South Africa, East to West Africa, TOS TV Network is your digital-first Pan-African news network, bringing you news from across the continent. Visit our website www.tostvnetwork.com and follow us on social media at TOS TV Network on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
You're welcome back. It's still the conversation on your digital first Pan-African news network. And of course, we're going straight to the crux of the program, the big story. We're talking about getting prices right, you know, petrol hike and everything. Over the weekend, you know, there've been some sort of, you know, confused opinions of Nigerians, whether there's a hike in fuel or whatnot. And Nigerians have come out to, you know, to the internet to state that, look, this is not good. There's different tones. We've talked about this before. What next? What's happening? Although the Nigerian government, you know, did make a U-turn as regards that, the big question remains: how can we get the petrol price right in Nigeria? You know, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation has summoned the major marketers, independent marketers, and other stakeholders, saying that there will be no increase in pump price of petrol in the country, despite the rise in the price of crude oil in the international market. And with a fully deregulated downstream industry, the natural fear and anticipation of Nigerians is the increase in the price of transportation, food items, and the attendant economic hardship. This morning, we speak to Mr. Sheun Dania. He's an oil and gas specialist speaking to us from Lagos. All right, before we engage Mr. Sheun on the phone, what do you think about, you know, all the confusion surrounding fuel hike and whatnot?
I think, like every other Nigerian, I'm equally as confused. I'm very confused, and I do hope that having our guest on the show this morning is going to, you know, just alleviate some of those confusions, just give them some insight into that. Because I mean, he's the oil and gas expert. I'm not an oil and gas expert, so there's you know, little I can say about it. But I mean, transportation, price of transportation have increased. And then I did mention yesterday that I was trying to get to work, and then I was using, you know, one of those riders app trying to get a cab. I couldn't get, there was none. No rides, no ride on the app, no cabs were available.
So do you think the possible reason would be maybe a hike?
A hike in the full price, or they were queuing, because the fuel queues are back. If you go to, you know, petrol stations, you will see like the number of queues is alarming. And then you're coming to work, or you're just along, if you go along the road, you would see number of people just along the road waiting to get, you know, get to work, but there are no cabs. It's either there are no cabs to take them to work, or the prices have increased and they weren't prepared for that.
You see how fast this news travels here. Before the weekend, you know, on Friday, you know, we spoke about this, and going back home, the taxi I boarded, the man was already talking about a fuel hike. Like, I'm like, we've not even finished discussing what's happening, and people already saying, look, the money has increased. So whatever fee you've been paying before is twice that number. And I'm like, but this is not even like, how fast can all this information get? It's now as though people are waiting, or fuel dispensers, fuel sellers are waiting for this kind of news so they can double their prices.
They actually do know, because I know, like the last time they had said that there was going to be an increase in full price hike, and then, but the people that sell at the pump, they refused to sell because they were hoping and waiting to just hear the news that there's an increase,
a hike in fuel,
so they can go on with it. And I think that's the controversy that we've been having. I think we have Mr. Sheung on now.
Good morning, Mr. Sheung.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. It's good to have you on this show today. First, what are your reactions to the confusing directives from the presidency and the PPPRA as regards the fuel price over the weekend?
Well, the PPPRA has the right to fix prices based on the template that they have in calculating the cost of importing and refining petroleum products from outside the country. However, as a government, we're supposed to be very, very sensitive as to the pricing, how it affects our people. So we use a foreign template, which is completely different from the realities that we have on ground in Nigeria. So most of those templates are used basically by refineries. Those refineries buy crude oil, refine, and then sell to the open market. In case of Nigeria, we should have our refineries up and working, and we should be the ones determining our pricing by ourselves, not based on commercial refineries. And if you look at it, most of the countries that we compare ourselves with, their per capita income is way higher than what we have in Nigeria. So we directly transferring every cost to the citizens makes it inappropriate.
Okay, so are you basically saying that operating the price modulation system is not working for Nigeria? Is that what you're saying?
Pardon?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I was asking, going by what you said, are you saying that operating a price modulation system is not working for Nigeria?
It should work. So the essence of the pricing and regulation is to ensure that we get the best value. I think it was probably introduced at the time when Naira and the dollar went far.
Okay.
And then it was in order for the government to get the best value.
Okay.
Naira was very valuable at the time, so it was important to benchmark our prices or what we were refining locally with the national prices. And for the citizens to get the best out of it in this current times when the prices, dollar has gained significant value over the Naira, and we are no longer refining any of our products. In order to ensure that the citizens get best prices for petroleum products, the government still regulates the petroleum industry. However, for products like ATO and kerosene, those have been completely deregulated. But PMS is still being regulated because the government is putting certain prices. We're supposed to be dictated by the market, but NNPC is the sole importer of petroleum products or PMS at the moment.
Yes.
So technically, they are selling and dictating the prices to everybody. They give everybody setting the price is supposed to be affordable, but they're just using a basic template from the refineries. I just do the normal calculations and then come up with the price. And as long as we're not refining locally, and the Naira continues to lose its value against the dollar,
okay,
the prices will keep going up.
Okay, so are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so what would you now say will be the best way to approach, the full price hike in Nigeria? Because, the issue of the increase has been, controversial in the past. I think how many years? What's the best approach at this point, to balancing the price of fuel in Nigeria?
The best action is to get our refineries working. We own our crude. The crude oil belongs to us, the government and the people. and the people are the government. So the best action is to make sure that we have refineries that are working, that we refine our crude oil locally, and then we can export the excess to neighboring countries. That way we are able to control our pricing. Otherwise, we'll just keep using international because, calculations from other refineries across the world and transfer the cost to our people.
Okay.
And it's not sustainable.
All right, let's talk about deregulation. Over the week, the whole fuel price hike, stirred a lot of controversy on the internet, and people have a lot to say about that. So how best do you think, in practical steps, this regulation you're talking about can be managed, going forward in this country?
It's very difficult to completely deregulate. So for the government to deregulate, they will need to also work very closely with the CBN, because when you deregulate, that means everybody will be able to import their products themselves and determine how much they sell it to the people. However, there's always a scramble for foreign exchange to import petroleum products. That is why the government has resorted to being the sole importer, so that most of the importers do not need to source for US dollars to buy petroleum products from the foreign market. That's why further devalued the naira. So I don't think we are a developing country. We are not. We shouldn't be deregulating just yet. I don't think we are ready for it. The government owes the people a good lifestyle, good standard of living. And if it requires subsidizing certain things like the cost of petroleum products, subsidizing government inefficiencies, that is the government's inability to get refineries up and running and to provide the basic amenities, and the government should not deregulate, because as the prices of petroleum products go up, the people suffer more.
Yes.
And people are not earning the people are not earning any more. Coupled with the fact that we're still in the middle of a pandemic, and Nigeria has been in and out of recession a couple of times in the past 4 years. It's at this moment the government is supposed to strategize and ensure that we have our refineries working. We become, instead of being an import-based economy, we start producing our things locally and exporting. That's the way we can reverse the cycle. So to answer the question, right now I don't believe that we need to regulate. I don't think we need to regulate. It still needs to be completely regulated as it is. Because if you get to a point whereby people keep using this foreign calculation, the government will still continue to pay subsidy.
Okay, you did speak about, the impact of all the incessant price fall in hike, on citizens. How do you think that, we can cushion the incessant fuel price hike to reduce, its effect on household vulnerability? How can we cushion the effect of that on, citizens?
Please say it again.
How can we cushion the effect of the incessant price hike on citizens? You did mention earlier how, we are at the back end or the receiving end of, the increase in the fuel price hike. What can we do to, cushion the effects that this has always had on our citizens?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, the cost of petroleum products has an adverse effect on transportation, which ends up also adding to cost. There's a ripple effect on the rest of the economy.
Yeah.
So that's why it's very essential. But really, the prices should not be going up. The government has to take a stand and, maintain their self. Also make sacrifices in terms of block all the loopholes, all the excesses, all the corruption, all the money leakages, and cover up for these things. Because the reason why the subsidy became a mess was because there was so much corruption in it. People were taking advantage of the subsidy regime. And the government decided to take that out because of a few corrupt people, and then now transferring the entire cost on the citizens.
Okay.
So what the government needs to do is tighten all those loopholes, take the job as a job, and actually fix all the leakages, and then ensure that, yes, they can continue to subsidize, or the NMPC function as it should, import the product and manage distribution.
Okay.
The market.
Okay. Okay, go on.
All right. So how can the PIB, talking about the petroleum industry bill, fit into this? What role does the petroleum industry bill, play in all of this? Looking at PIB as the law that, that guards the total sphere of the industry. So what role do you think it applies in as regards to, fuel hike, pricing and everything?
Yeah, the petroleum industry governance bill would actually should help in some way, because what it does is it actually breaks down NNPC into several components that would act as businesses and pay to the government. So I believe that if the government is unable to function properly, the petroleum industry governance bill breaking down the NNPC and giving each of those units a task and function and target, they would operate as commercial businesses and ensure that they are competitive.
Okay.
So the passage of the bill will definitely help, not with the pricing, but it's help in terms of the processing.
Okay.
What will help with pricing is refining. We need to refine more locally. We need to get our refineries up and running. We need to refine our own products. As long as we keep importing, we are selling our raw materials and then importing finished products, the prices would always be on the high side, because we have to be working with international market prices.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to ask you straight up. Do you think we can ever get pricing right in Nigeria? Is it possible, in your opinion? I was asking you straight up. Do you think we can get, pricing right? I'm talking about the price of fuel. Do you think we can ever get it right or balance it in Nigeria? Is it possible, in your opinion?
Yes, it's possible to get price. You can't get pricing right unless you're the one setting your prices. And the only time you can set your prices is if you are in control of your resources. So being in control of the resources means we own our crude oil. We know what we want to deliver to our people. We can process it locally, refine it locally, and then we can set the prices that we want to sell to our people locally. And then whatever amount it is that we're exporting. So if you take Saudi Arabia, for instance, or some of the other OPEC countries who are producing and refining locally, the prices that they sell to their citizens in country is different from the prices that they export. So that is what Nigeria should be doing. So you use international prices when you are exporting the refined product, and then you have a different template for local consumption.
But aside not having a refinery, a working refinery in Nigeria, what else is stopping us as a country, in getting there? What else do you think is stopping us?
We can go back to the old regime of swap, whereby you give out your crude oil, not sell it 100%. You send it to refineries, and you pay them for refining, and you have your calculations of how much finished products, refined products that are going to come back to you. So it's pretty much a deal. So I give you XYZ amount of barrels of oil. You give me a certain amount in PMS, in AGO, in NAFTA, in LPG, and all of that calculation is there. And I pay you for that refining process. Everybody, there's always like a cost per barrel for refining. So I pay you that cost per barrel, and then you give me back my finished product. That way I can determine how much I want to sell it. But as long as we are selling our crude oil and getting dollars for that crude oil, and then we're now buying all the refined products, we have no say in the pricing. We can only try to manage what it is that people pay locally. That's why subsidy comes into play. And then when it becomes difficult to manage, because Nigeria is suffering right now. So it becomes difficult for the government to manage paying subsidies, even if they wanted to, even if there was the political will to, but they can't afford it.
Okay. Before I let you go, last question I had, you mentioned subsidy and the government saying that they cannot, afford subsidy at this time. But the NNPC, is saying otherwise, right? The NNPC is saying that we're going to, stabilize the price of fuel, especially in March. Why do you think we have a disparity between the government or, the Ministry of Petroleum and the NNPC? Why is there a disparity between these two?
Yeah, because in the petroleum industry, it's not the financials are not very transparent. I think the NNPC has been doing a fantastic job in making their, they think this is the first time in the history of Nigeria that the NNPC has ever published their audited report. They know how much is coming in. They know how much is Nigeria is losing, and how much is going to government largesse, so to say. So they believe that they can afford it, but then of course the government wants to channel these resources can still be channeled into infrastructure development and several other things. So how long can we afford it? Is left to the government to decide. And of course, for a developing nation, the government wants to develop infrastructure. The government wants to build infrastructure, so they would rather spend that money on developing infrastructure than to subsidize. And for the government, they believe that paying subsidy is just enriching a few people.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, I'm so sorry to have caught you there, but thank you so much for joining the show. We're pretty out of time, so we'll have to let you go at this point.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining the show. That was Mr. Sheun Dania, an oil and gas specialist, speaking to us, from Lagos, trying to talk about how to, further regulate and balance the price of fuel in Nigeria, because the incessant fuel price hike has, as he said, has a ripple effect, on the economy. And then we're the ones that are going to suffer in the long run. I mean,
and it always comes, like every year, there's always a topic or two talking about the price hike going forward, downwards. So there's no a balance.
I mean, having to go from, I think, around 64 naira or thereabout to 200 and something at pump price. It's alarming.
And I can even remember when it was at 64 naira, some people were agitating that should be reduced because 64 naira is quite alarming. But now, look at where we were then and where we are now. So of course, always something to talk about. Always something to talk about.
We hope that policies we put in place, measures we put in place, not just put in place but actualized to actually ensure that we have price of fuel at pump price is regulated and all of that. And of course, I do agree with him when he said we should produce our oil here and refine it here, so we can I mean we have refineries. We just have to put them back in shape.
For me, that's the total solution. Exactly. Yeah, we making our own product and using our own product. So there's no need for checking the price of barrel,
having to sell to them, then the refine it and sell back.
Even the process is actually long. Yeah,
it's quite long. It's quite long. We need to look towards being more of a producing state or country than being a consuming country. All right, that's so much you can take on the conversation this morning. Don't forget you can be a part of the conversation by following us across all social media platforms, TOS TV Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and of course again also subscribe to our YouTube channel, TOS TV Network. Also check out our website, www.tostvnetwork.com. I am Adesuwa Osui.
And I am Merciful Ajinomo. Thank you for joining us today.